Let's get into some basketball with Aaron Torres, who makes us feel happy every time we talk to him. Mm-hmm. Although I got to be honest with you, I mean, I want to be happy with Arkansas basketball, but I just never know what to expect game by game, half by half. Aaron, I think you agree with us. I think you agree with me on that point. That's for sure.
Well, I'll say I'm a lot happier to talk to you after the second half of Arkansas basketball on Tuesday or Wednesday night, whatever it was. Not just the first half, but no, I mean, listen, I am, you guys know me, I'm a glasses half full guy. I am trying to take that as, okay, whatever was holding them back, confidence-wise, energy-wise, that was recaptured in the second half against Auburn. But you got to bring it every single game. And obviously, look, this is a group of veteran players. I know they haven't all been at Arkansas. Most of them haven't. But when you have this many seniors, this many 4, 5, 3-year college players, you need to bring that every single night. And so I'm optimistic that they can keep this going. But, you got to show it every single night you take the floor.
Musk seems frustrated right now, Aaron, and I think we could all understand why, but I think in his case, it feels like the only time where he might have trouble getting the message through to the players, and he's even said that himself as far as like 3-point defense and energy and those sort of things. I mean, he can only say so much. The players have to take the coaching and the message and run with it. And I mean, we've sensed that frustration from Musk. I think it mirrors the fan base's frustration, but I feel like this is not like a different test than he's ever faced before, and not like it's something he can't handle, but it's definitely, it definitely feels like he's, I think, more frustrated right now than at any time in his college coaching career.
It appears to be that way from a distance. I mean, I didn't see the post-Alabama press conference, but I did see the post-LSU press conference, or I watched clips of it anyway. And, he looked dejected. And, sometimes, I mean, there are times where your team can have a bad performance and you can have an answer. There's times that you can have a good performance and have an answer, obviously. It just felt to me like he just didn't even have an answer for what had happened in the LSU game, and then to see a transition. The one thing I would say, guys, and I'm not making an excuse because I know Muss or whatever, I thought Bruce Pearl brought up a good point leading into that Auburn game, is that going into that game, they were 2-4 in SEC play, but you look at the losses, 3 of them were to arguably, and I don't even know that it's arguable, the 3 best teams in the conference on the road, at LSU, at Alabama, at Tennessee, and we know the Tennessee game at the very least was a game that Arkansas could have and maybe even should have won. So I thought that was an interesting point by Bruce Pearl, but it goes back to a couple things. I think, one, you got to bring that energy and effort every single game, and 2, it can't just be at home. We know that even in a minimal capacity, Bud Walton is still does have a home court advantage, but you want to be an NCAA tournament team, and all these guys came to Arkansas to play in the tournament. You got to win some games away from home. We will see if that happens going forward.
Well, and I'm a little nervous tomorrow just because I never know what to expect. Vanderbilt chucks up a ton of threes. Arkansas struggles to defend the three sometimes. So, so you would say tomorrow should be theoretically the easiest opponent, if not one of the easiest opponents of the season. But still, I feel like Vanderbilt's strength right now matches up against Arkansas's weakness. So I wouldn't be putting any money on that game tomorrow.
Well, it might be on the Vanderbilt side, to be honest. No, and Vanderbilt, that's exactly what they do well. And, Jerry Stackhouse came from the NBA, a lot of NBA principles, no different than Eric Musselman. A lot of NBA principles. They shoot a lot of threes. The kid, Scottie Pippen Jr., who obviously has a famous dad, is a kid that can fill up the basket. He's a different player than his dad. He's a ball handler, point guard. As I watch him, I tend to wonder if he's going to have his dad's growth spurt and end up at 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" before the end of his career. But he's, 6'2", 6'3" right now. No, this is what, right, guys, listen, bottom line is, I'm not excusing anything, but you can explain away a loss at Alabama or LSU, even if you can't really explain away how it happened. You lose at Vanderbilt, there's some big-time issues here. So I'm trying, I'm fortunate, guys. I don't have to talk about this stuff every single day like you guys, and I'm trying to find that balance of, there are concerns, but there are some bright spots and silver linings if you look hard enough. And, I think that, to me, that's the kind of the key is just kind of seeing, trying not to just get in the vacuum of one or two games, but look at the big picture of the season, look at the fact that you've now swept Auburn. But we'll see going forward, because obviously there's a lot of basketball left, and this is a game, again, you absolutely have to win. There's no excuse if you're an NCAA tournament team.
Aaron Torres joining us here on Halftime AT. We've mentioned Alabama several times, and I feel like this question might have been better had we not seen Tennessee get blown out by Florida earlier this week. But is Alabama, in your mind, the best team in the SEC right now? Because Aaron AT, they're playing like they're the hottest team in the SEC, one of the hottest teams in the country right now.
So I'll tell you, first of all, you're absolutely right, Matt. One of the hottest teams, not only in the SEC, in the country. It's so funny because I go on in Tuscaloosa. I was on yesterday. I don't even think the fans in Alabama, they're still they're still thinking about Devontae Smith and dreaming of Najee Harris. I don't think even the fans realize how good they are. But to answer your question, yes, they're the best team in the SEC. I'll take it a step further. I know it's only January 22nd. We can just go ahead and hand them the SEC regular season championship right now. And it sounds crazy, guys, but, I looked it up. This is maybe the most incredible stat that I've really come across. Alabama was picked to finish 5th in the SEC in the preseason. They have now beaten already the teams that were picked to finish 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th. And they've beaten them by an average of 18 points. So when you look at Alabama, barring something catastrophic, and I don't wish ill will on anybody, they've already played the toughest portion of the schedule, and they have a 2-game lead over anybody that you would view as a competitor in this conference. And so, yes, Matt, they're rolling. I think they're playing, frankly, as well as anybody in college basketball, period, end of story. And I just don't see it slowing down anytime soon. Now, are they going to go 18-0 in the SEC? Of course not. Somebody will clip them at some point. But it's just, they're just crushing people right now. And, I know there's no silver lining, but what they did to Arkansas the other day at Coleman Coliseum, guess what? They've done to a lot of other teams this year, including LSU the other night.
Wasn't just a freak kind of a game. On the other side of the spectrum, and you do a lot with the Kentucky sports radio and different things like that, so I want to get your thoughts on Kentucky. And AT, where do the Wildcats go from here? They lost a heartbreaker against Georgia. They had the lead late in that ball game. Georgia, I think it was a 7-0, 9-0 run to end that ball game. Where does John Calipari, where did the Wildcats go from here to try to salvage the season at this point?
Matt, I've been more critical of John Calipari this year than I think I've ever been, frankly. And frankly, it's obviously with good reason, right? They're 4-9. But I also look at it from a couple different perspectives. I do think, one, there is kind of a quote-unquote excuse for this, and that is that, weird off season. No program had more roster turnover. Arkansas only had one guy basically come back in Desi Sills, but at least they have more veterans, this and that, and they played, frankly, a really tough schedule in the out-of-conference, they being Kentucky. But two, I'll be honest, I watched that game, against Georgia the other night. Calipari has pulled out every tweak he can, every roster adjustment that he can, and I think there's just, I don't think the talent is there. I really don't. And I hate to, I hate to say that about 18-year-old kids, and two, that does fall on Calipari and his staff for recruitment, development, evaluation, whatever. I just, I think we're beyond the point of, are they going to make the tournament? They're 4-9, assuming there's an SEC tournament. They're going to have to win that SEC tournament to go to the NCAA tournament. But, I don't think it gets fixed, and I'm not saying they're never going to win another game the rest of the year, but you look at their problems, I just don't think it's fixable with the guys they have on the roster. The guards are I hate to criticize these kids, but they're just not good enough. When you look at the guards at even Arkansas with Desi Sills and Moses Moody and guys like that, obviously the guys that Alabama has, Cam Thomas at LSU, Kentucky's guys aren't even in the same stratosphere, and their big guys can't shoot, and we know how important shooting is in this era. I just don't think it gets better this year, guys. I really, really don't.
Before we let you go, I want to get your thoughts on some college football news, and it's been a whirlwind of a week for the Tennessee Volunteers with Philip Fulmer, quote unquote, retiring or stepping away from us, so however you want to unpack that. But Tennessee got a little bit of a bright spot. They got their new athletics director, Danny White from Central Florida. You mentioned on your Twitter page at Aaron_Torres, this is a good move for Tennessee. And AT, I mean, do you think Tennessee in the next 2, 3, 4 years will get this thing back rolling to where we think Tennessee should be, or is this going to be a long 2 or 3 years for Tennessee?
Yeah, I think that, a lot of various different things can be true. One, I do think this is a really good hire. If you look at Danny White, he's kind of famously known as the guy that claimed the national championship at Central Florida a few years ago. But, I mean, his track record of hires is pretty insane. I mean, first of all, to bring it back full circle to this conversation, he is the guy that gave Nate Oates his first head coaching job at Buffalo, 7, 8 years ago. He gave Scott Frost his first head coaching job, and I know Scott Frost has struggled at Nebraska, but he took UCF to 13-0. Bobby Hurley, you go on and on down the list. He has an incredible track record of hires, and I think he's going to get somebody really good for Tennessee. But, the second part of your question was, is it going to, can in 2 or 3 years, can it be back to where it was? And I just don't think so, Matt, because, we've seen all these players hit the portal, and maybe some of them eventually end up coming back. Will remain to be seen depending on who the coach is. But, I look at, and I do think this is a time where me kind of covering football and basketball helps, but I look at these FBI college basketball trials. We're 4 years in, and we still don't have a resolution. And so if Tennessee is now in the infant stages of this investigation into their football program, I think you're going to be recruiting against a brick wall here for 3 or 4 years until you finally get clarity, and then you're going to have to deal with whatever the long-term sanctions are. So, my buddy Barrett Salih from CBS, and I think you guys have had him on before, he's a great resource in college football. I saw him tweet the other day, and I think it's accurate, I think this is a 4 or 5 year thing. I really do. I wish it wasn't. I don't wish this on any fan base, but, it's going to get ugly before it gets better. But I also think there's kind of an interesting pool of candidates that they could dip into, including a guy who is, of course, near and dear to all Arkansas fans' hearts, Gus Malzahn. So we'll see about that. But maybe the Gus bus will be rolling through Fayetteville after all here these next couple of years.
I think it's going to be a long time.
Yep.
Maybe until the next Haley's Comet for the next time Tennessee has a shot at it being in the playoff or anything like that. AT, appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks,
Take care.
AT.
You got it. That's Aaron Torres. You can give him a follow at Aaron_Torres and download the latest edition of the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast anywhere you can get your podcasts. And I tell you, a great thing to do tomorrow if you want to watch Arkansas versus Vanderbilt, because SmackDown might be there. Head over to Joe's Grill and Cantina.
Head on over to Joe's Grill and Cantina tomorrow during the Razorback game. Half price apps and taps. It is also their Sippin' Saturday brunch menu. So get over there by 10 or 11, get you some breakfast, and then half price apps and taps. Half price apps and taps starting at the Razorback basketball game. Or head over there tonight. They've got chicken fajitas for $7, steak fajitas for $8, and the SmackDown favorite, the flavored margaritas, starting at $4 a piece at Joe's Grill and Cantina. You ain't going to find a better deal in the River Valley at 3400 South 74th Street in Fort Smith, across from Harps. Give them a call at 479-478-9600. We're wrapping up hour 1, coming up next.